Hello. Hello.
Okay. Well, this is our first episode. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the first time that we're actually doing this, so it's more or less episode 0.
So this is not our first conversation we've had, but just the first conversation we've gotten a chance to record together.
Exactly.
And so, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. What's up, guys and girls? My name is Akoo. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can go in depth or...
Yeah, that's okay. I was just doing a little introduction, but yeah, I think my name is Stephen.
Yeah.
I'm the yellow side of this podcast.
I'm obviously the black side.
Yeah, obviously the black side. And we are actually both just leaders in the church and, got to know each other through serving together in high school ministry. And we connected. We're both 24.
Yeah.
Both, out of college. Akoo's newly married. I'm single. So,
shout out to the wife.
That's right.
She's editing this right now, so she's making us look good and sound good.
That's right. We do need help sounding good. That's for sure. But we decided to make this podcast because it's really a good way for us to record the conversations we've had.
Yeah.
One, because we think the conversations we have are fruitful and just are of value. And it's just a good way for us to even look back on and see what we're thinking and to challenge ourselves, even our past selves, and see how much we've grown.
Yeah.
I think that's...
Yeah, I would say for me, honestly, approaching, this season where we're trying to kind of have something to say. The reason why I'm so open to this podcast is I was having a conversation with Stephen a couple months ago, and I was like, man, we just have some really good challenging conversations every time that we meet up with each other, every time that we just share our thoughts, share our concerns and all that stuff. And I'm like, man, a lot of these conversations that we're having, man, it's not just for us to, like, I feel like a lot more people need to kind of listen and then have their own opinions and see if they can do something on their end, to just have a say in what's going on or the things that we're going through and stuff like that. So for me, it's a season that I'm excited about and an opportunity that I've never done this before. This is a step of vulnerability definitely for me, and I'm assuming same for you too.
Oh, for sure.
But I think my goal and our goal combined is to just have a space where we can share our thoughts openly and be vulnerable with you guys and kind of almost challenge each other and attempt to challenge you guys to grow in your spirituality, grow in your faith, grow in your relationship with Christ and other people. So that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about with the with growing in your faith and your relationship with God, I think that leads into the topic that we wanted to even talk about today.
Yeah.
If you would like to introduce the topic, it's actually, I'll go over it real quick. We're going to talk a little bit about going through seasons of dispassion, where you are not excited about whatever season of life, whether it's with your job, whether it's at school, or even a relationship, lack thereof relationship. I know there's many of us who do think that it's a season that we detest, and that's a whole nother conversation. But mainly dealing with what do we do when we're called into a season of where, God, this is not where I want to be.
Yeah, I like that. And I would say to kind of set the stage, we have to, obviously, like you guys, this is the first time we're opening up to you guys, and you don't even know who we are, let alone why we're doing this.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I'd say for me, a little bit of background, a little bit of perspective of what has brought me to this moment, to this point in life right now. I was born and raised in Kenya, in Nairobi, Kenya, in Africa, and I spent the majority of my youth up until I was about 9-10 years old, I spent in Kenya. Then I moved to the U.S. When I was young. When I was about 10 years old, I was just starting middle school. And for me, I've gone through seasons of transition seasons of, going through something that, whether it's school, whether it's studying and applying to colleges, whether it's going to college, studying abroad, stuff like that. And then being out of college, moving to a whole different city, trying to, get a job, figuring out different relationships that I'm leaving behind / I'm creating. And then, the work-life balance, being an adult. Like, I've gone through a lot of different transitions in my whole life, but specifically in the last, I would say in the last 2-3 years. And Stephen mentioned it earlier. I am a newly married man. So I got married in January the 22nd of 2022. So this year. And obviously that is another transition that I made with my wife, another step, another season that I walked into. And yeah, so kind of having that as a mindset, as a background, for me personally, it's really challenging at times to go through life with seasons of, man, I feel like I'm not engaged. Man, I feel like I'm not passionate. Man, I feel like, this season that I'm going through, I just want it to end. And I'm almost like numb to the surroundings that's going on around me, or the things that, I'm doing, or the relationships that I have with people, or just stuff like that. So I'm going to open up more about that later. But I wonder, like, what your background, or how your background, Stephen, has kind of led yourself into this moment, and with this kind of topic of feeling dispassionate about, going through different things, or even your faith.
Yeah. So a little background about me. I'm not from Kenya. I am from nowhere super special. I actually come from Wichita, Kansas. So any Wizard of Oz people who understand that, I've heard it all. It's ridiculous, but I totally understand it. Youngest of 4 kids, and went through high school and college, and got through 4 years of college. Not really a problem. I'm looking to go into a career into dentistry, but also serving the church as best as possible. And so I'm in a stage of not really getting pursuit. I'm waiting, a season of waiting.
Yeah.
And so I'll speak more on what that looks like, even when being denied from what you desire, and what that looks like within a career or a relationship. But yeah, I would say for myself currently, just based on the topic of dispassion, what does it look like when you're dispassionate about service to the church?
Yeah. Oh man, I think that's a huge question in itself. Being or feeling like unpassionate about serving. For people who call themselves believers, for people who call themselves Christians, or whatever religion that you're listening, I think part of religion, or part of being a Christian in itself, is, man, you have to serve. We believe in a God that came to this world not to be served by others, but to serve others. So it's only right that, us as his followers, us as his children, to just follow along the footsteps and along the thought process and the narrative that Jesus already wrote for us, right? So how does that impact me personally? I would say for me, I'll say this, Stephen. In one sense, I'm kind of spoiled when it comes to this conversation, because one of my passions that I've gotten to realize in the short term that I've been a Christian is, I think God has ignited this light in my body of ministry. Of ministering to other people, of ministering to the youth, or just doing missions in itself. I actually got an opportunity to go to Brazil when I was studying in college. And part of the way that I got to go to Brazil is there was a study abroad opportunity where I got to go minister to kids through the sport of soccer. Oh man, it was a lot of fun. I was there. But what I'm saying though is when I was in college, and when I was studying more about what it means to be faithful, what it means to be a Christian, what it means to live a life that is not your own, but God has basically like entrusted you to be a servant of your own body. You know, mindsets like that. For me, I was just very interested, and I was very excited to like navigate through that and to serve or to find ways to go into ministry. So on one hand, yes, I'm spoiled in that, but on another hand, I've gone to go through seasons, and actually I would say I just came from a season where serving has become more or less like a chore. Something where instead of, man, I get to serve, it's been more so, man, I have to serve. I'm like, oh my gosh, man, like I'm waking up at 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning when I'm supposed to be serving, and I'm showing up 4 minutes late because, you know, like I live 2 minutes away from church. So I'm like, man, I've been, you know, staying up late the night before, and one of our church members sends me a text message, hey, are you going to be serving today? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, just go ahead and pray without me. No big deal. I'll be there. I'll put my name tag on.
But the worst one for me is, man, I'm such a big soccer fan, and the soccer that I watch, a lot of it comes during the weekends, during the mornings, because the league play in Europe, which is like 4 or 5 hours ahead of us. My team is Arsenal, for you guys, for your Arsenal fans out there.
Go.
So that's also another, you know, like indictment that causes me to just be so annoyed a lot of times when I get to serve or when I have to serve, because I'm like, man, Arsenal is playing a game, and a really big game that I don't want to miss at 9 o'clock Sunday morning. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I already told, you know, my church member that I was going to help him serve. And I'm like, just trying to balance, should I watch my game? Should I serve? Should I go? You know, like there's things like that. And to be honest, man, I go through seasons, and I've actually just gone through a season where I felt, man, like I'm just tired. I'm physically tired. I'm mentally tired, and I'm tired of church, quote unquote church. Yeah. The aspects of what church means, of serving, of discipling, of physically going to the building, right? And I'm like, man, I can just be my own church. I can pray to God whenever I need to pray. I can open my Bible and do my daily devotions, and that's enough. You know, like going through seasons like that where I'm like, man, I'm just tired. I don't want to get up. I don't want to put on, you know, some nice church clothes. I don't want to go out, get in my truck and drive 2 minutes, literally 2 minutes from church.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
What about you, man? How's that?
Let's talk about all the things that you talked about. And I think it's so funny, Akoo, that you talk about that, because, like, man, 2 minutes is really not that long. That's like it's 2 ads on YouTube, but literally in our minds we think this 2 minutes is so long. But I think what you talked about there is just is very relatable to many of us as we serve. And I think the trap that we can fall into in our own minds is, I can do this thing, I can do this praying thing and reading thing and worshiping all on my own. Yeah. And I will say that is still part of it. I still believe it is necessary for us to have our own quiet time. Yeah. It's good to carve out time, and I myself can tell even this week, as I have not carved that time, it has been a struggle connecting to God and staying of the right mind, but I digress. But the idea I think you're placing forward, just in what you described, is the part of church of you do need to pour out to others, but you also need to be poured into. Yes. So let's dive into that idea of what does being poured in look like? Because clearly from what you've described, even though the church is saying, and I say church, but realistically, whatever community you're a part of, it says this is edifying, this is building you up to be better, is by serving. Yeah. Let's talk about, when does serving become destructive for you? And how do we find a balance? Yeah, I think you touched on a couple of different really good points on, well, the first one being, okay, when does it turn
the tide turned from you serving to actually you being served, you people like looking out for you, or you being discipled in whatever way that looks like. And another point that you said is, okay, at what moment does serving get to be destructive, get to be something where, like I said earlier, it turns into a chore? And what I'll say to that is, man, the moment varies for a lot of people, but in its simplest form, I think the perspective that I've gotten to see it through is the moment where you forget the posture in which you had when you first served.
Yes.
And
yeah.
kind of going on that is, man, I want you guys to think of not necessarily the moment you first served, but even backtrack to the moment where you first believed.
Okay, yeah.
I remember for me, it was sophomore year in college. Freshman year in college, 2 weeks in, and I had this pastor by the name of Clayton King come and speak to our school. I went to a Christian school, by the way, called Liberty University. But anyways, I got to
shout out to Liberty.
Yeah, shout out to Liberty. Yeah, man, I love that school. But yeah, so I got to get saved. Find my faith freshman year, and I remember the hour, the moment, the second that I first believed, how my posture was, man, God, I'm not enough. Like, man, God, I'm so vulnerable right now. Man, God, I'm just a child, a toddler that is in need of taking caring, like somebody to take care of me, right? So kind of fast forward into one of the first moments where I first served is, man, like I get to be that person for somebody else who's at that stage where they feel like, man, they're vulnerable, or man, they're not enough, or man, like they need affection, or they need somebody to just speak truth onto them, whatever that looks like, right? Yeah. So obviously serving can look like a lot of different things, and depending on what you're doing or who you're doing it to. But to your point, how that can quickly go from, man, I get to serve, to, man, I have to serve. It's all because of that posture that we have, right? If you do something for so long, it gets to be tasteless or distasteful. Like, for example, think of your favorite food or your favorite candy, and
sushi,
right?
Lovers out there.
Yeah. So, have you ever gone like 3-4 days straight with eating sushi for lunch and for dinner? Is that something that you've done? Yeah,
is that?
But you would realize that maybe after like the second day or even the third day, you start feeling yourself like kind of sick from it, right? Yeah. Kind of distasteless from it. Yeah. Like, man, I don't even like. Yes, sushi's my favorite thing, but that's the last thing I want right now, right? I remember for me, it was Chick-fil-A. I love Chick-fil-A, man. But there was this one season when I was in school where I was writing a paper, and I was so like, oh man, I was spending so much time by myself, and I think I had Chick-fil-A for like 3 days straight for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm not gonna lie, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I remember by the third day, like I didn't even want Chick-fil-A. Like, I probably stayed for a good 4 or 5 months before I had Chick-fil-A again.
Oh yeah, that's too much.
With that perspective, bringing into the conversation that we're having, if you're constantly serving, if you're constantly going to church, if you're constantly like pouring out, speaking to people, discipling people, without the right posture, without God being the center of it all, it can quickly turn into something that you find distasteless, something that you've done so much for so long, and now you're like, man, like, this is yet another chore that I have to do. Like, oh man, I don't want to do this right now, man. Like, I just need a break. Yeah. So I don't know if you have similar thoughts, or if you have a different perspective that you can open up on. But.
Yeah, I know. I think that's a fantastic point, and I think diving into that idea of what posture are you taking, God being the center, and I think that's a really good point, because I was reading, I don't remember where I read it, but someone said, it was Mere Christianity. I forget who the author is, but C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity. Yeah. And there's a moment where he says, for if you base anything, and I'm butchering it, you guys, but I think it's in the first or second chapter, is if you base anything, if you put any attribute in life that's by human, like whether it be like money or pride and whatever, fun, if you champion that and say that's a good thing, it may very well be a good thing. You can champion any good thing.
Yeah.
But if you follow that and only that, eventually you will find a situation where it is destructive.
Yeah.
And the example C.S. Lewis gave is the love of man. You know, loving humanity and say, hey, like, we should love everybody. And not to say you shouldn't love everybody, but we should save everyone no matter what they do. Well, should a murderer not be convicted of his crimes? Because that would make you an evil person just letting him go. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And obviously there's the love of God. But his idea is if you champion one idea, it can quickly turn sour if that's all that you think about. And so the idea of serving being the cornerstone of your identity can quickly become destructive. It can run you to the ground. Yeah. Because it is not our job to save people. It's God's job. Yeah. We're an instrument. Yep. And so the idea that you brought up is, wow, our posture is we get to love people because God loved us. Yeah. And we want to be closer to God. So that posture, I think that's important because getting closer to God is not just serving. It can be small groups. It can be community. It can be worshiping by yourself. Maybe it can be having a great conversation. And so this is the main thing that I can think of as I've talked with so many people is you need to learn how to say no. Yeah. Like, and that's such a hard... That's a good one. Like, learning to say no is one of the biggest things because it does not deter you. It does not mold you into a bad person. No, it does not make you a selfish person if you know that whatever you're saying no to won't edify you or bring you closer to God. And I think that's very important because that comes with understanding yourself and knowing what is necessary for yourself. And that takes soul searching. Like, that takes time alone and thinking about who you are and what God is calling you to be. Yeah. Who God is calling you to be. And so, like, that would be my encouragement to anyone listening and for myself. Like, it's okay to say no. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And like hearing you speak, the two things that I was thinking about were like kind of, it was bouncing back and forth in my brain were burnout versus clout. Yeah. You know, kind of the effects and things that you get from serving in whatever way that looks like for you guys, and doing it so much to the point where you lose the perspective and the posture in which you started doing it with. You either end up in two roads. There could be more out there, but the two roads that I was thinking about is it could end up in burnout. Burnout of serving so many times and devoting yourself to so many people, and you know, going to that worship night every single week, and like getting dinner with that person every single week, and you know, like going to that Bible study group every single day. Like we've had conversations with a lot of our friends, even I'd say either of us, where we just feel like, man, I just feel like I'm burnt out. Like I have used myself so many times, and I'm just like, man, I'm done. Like I just need I need a second, I need a moment, I need an hour, I need a day, I need a week to just relax, you know, because I'm just burnt out, right? And then the other road or the other pathway that it could lead to is clout. You know, a lot of people and I would say for me, I actually have had moments where I see this playing out in my explain to the older people listening.
Clout is okay. It's the idea
some sort of disease.
No.
What are these guys getting? This is only for women that get this.
No, clout is the mindset and that the perspective of, okay, I'm serving for me. Like I want to be recognized for what I'm doing, for the ministry that I'm playing, and God, like, look at me, like, this is what I'm doing for you. And what I mean by clout, for you guys that might not really know what that looks like, let me play it out. It could look like being that worship leader that shows up every single Monday, Wednesday, Friday to perform on Wednesdays and on the weekends. And man, you have that beautiful, amazing voice that God gifted you, right? And you are using that voice to serve and to sing and to bring people in a moment where they're worshiping God. But it's realizing that, man, like, you're starting to see people look at you and put you as a celebrity. People want to hang out with you. You become that guy. Yeah. You become that status that people want to be like. Yeah. You become that image of the church. This is the church. This is the person. Yeah. This is our worship team. This is the standard. This is the lifestyle.
This
right?
is who you want to come
exactly.
to. You want to be fed.
And then instead of saying no, like, guys, girls, like, stop looking at me. Listen to me and listen to what I'm saying. You're saying, oh yes, do look at me. Do look at what I'm wearing. Do look at my social media. Do look at my lifestyle. And you're just going through and you're portraying this world where it's all about you. Mm-hmm. That's what I mean by cloud. And I've seen people who have used serving to end into that road, into that pathway. And I would say for me also, I'm not scapegoating anyone, and I'm not scapegoating myself. I've found myself in seasons where I'm doing something and people are celebrating me for it, and I'm enjoying that celebration. Like, it feels good for somebody to see you and to see things that you're doing. Yeah. But where does it end?
Right.
That's that question. Where does it end?
And let's pull this into biblically, because as you're talking, this is such a great, and you're gonna love this, Akoo. Akoo's one of his main things that he loves is, one, accountability, but his main thing that he champions is love. Mm-hmm. And let's go into this. He's going to love me for this. This is 1 Corinthians 13.
Yes.
This is fantastic. You can use whatever version you got. I'm going to read it out. If I speak in the tongues of men and angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal.
Yeah.
If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all that I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames but have not love, I gain nothing. And that, I think, just encapsulates just what is the pitfall of the clout mindset, or just all me. Yeah. Because love is an outpouring. It's a sacrificial love for those around you. And so when you start thinking just about yourself, you think, oh, this is about me, and you just start saying things so people can recognize you. But that means nothing in the sight of God. And I think that's the most important voice that you should listen to, is the voice of God. Because that touches on, like, listen, the voice of God is the most important. So when he tells you to back down, you better back down. And when he tells you to pull back, to be closer to him, you should also listen. And so I think, we can talk about it more later, but I think that addresses the idea of burnout and clout. I agree. Listening to the voice of God, and how do we display his love? Because loving people does not mean burning yourself out in flames. Exactly. This is a wildfire. A wildfire spreads low. It does. Spreading and spreading. Shout out to my man Crowder. That song is fantastic. But we are a wildfire, and that's what you are. If you've ever been to Kansas, if you haven't been to Kansas, try driving on a highway through a wildfire. You can't see nothing. It's terrible, but that's what it's like. And there's pockets of fire. It's not a huge flame unless they're dumb. There's a lot of wind, but when there's no wind, that fire is spreading slowly. It is. To everywhere, and it encapsulates everything. And I think that's what we're called to be. Is we're not supposed to be these grandiose individuals. And yes, there are many people who will be championed. God bless their souls, because that is such a weight on them. But for every layman or just individual out there, it's small steps.
I love that. And I love that 1 Corinthians 13 verse that you just read, and verses that you just read. And that's my favorite word. You said my favorite word, because for you guys, it's love. That's literally it. And we could go back to the beginning of this podcast with the Dispassion. And we could put Dispassion equals unlove, or the absence of love.
Yeah.
And then you could put what's the end goal, or what's the cure? Love. Think about it, right? Yeah. You are going through your season that you're going through right now, whether it's you're that single guy who just finished high school and doesn't want to go to college, but is trying to find a sense of community, trying to find work, trying to find all these things, trying to find that relationship, you know what I mean? And is going through the season where even they're trying to find their identity. That's a big one that we're going to touch on once we move along with these podcasts. Is okay, so you're going through all these things that you're thinking about as a young adult, as a single guy who's just out of high school, and you're thinking, okay, let me serve, let me go to church, let me do these things where I feel like I'm doing something with my life, right? Yeah. I'm making something out of this time and the season that I'm going through.
Making my mark.
I'm making my mark, exactly. But if love is absent, you can find your way through, man, you try it out, and then next thing you know, after 1 month, after 3 months, after 7 months, you've hit burnout. Yeah. You've done so much and you don't have any more to give. Or it could be the other pathway where you try something, or you try serving, and you realize, oh yeah, this is actually something it's your thing. Yeah. And you realize that, man, 2 months ago you were just this random guy out of high school, and now you're the face of this church that you're going through, or like you have all these followers, or you have all these group of friends, and without love, you're finding yourself, man, you're getting a lot of clout, you're getting a lot of recognition, you're getting a lot of pats on your back and congratulations, and you're losing the vision and the purpose to why God is putting you or put you through that transition that you're going through, right? Yeah. And then if you go through those same perspectives with love, and this is not just for the idea of feeling dispassionate about whatever, or feeling dispassionate about serving. This can go into any conversation, and I think the more we continue doing these episodes, you're gonna realize that we're always gonna go back to some aspect of love. Is, man, like, if you have this posture of love, and what does love mean? Love means, man, you're recognizing that God sacrificed his son for you to have this life with him, with God, this unity with him, because we were separated from him, and it's only through Jesus' sacrifice that we were able to be reunited with him. So our response is to love. Our response is to glorify God through the love that he's given us. And that should play out into every single aspects of our lives, no matter what season that we're going through. And that could be very hard. And I think that's something that we can kind of like land our plane on. And what are some ways into which we could find, even if it's a small tangible way in which we could find an aspect of love in the season that we're going through, that is distasteful, that is, we feel dispassionate about whatever it is.
Man, this is such a rich topic. I think you're hitting the split between passion and love. What the difference is, because oftentimes we've talked about it this week at our little Bible study. Akoo brought up this question of, like, do you find it easy to love someone or like someone? Which one is faster? And we often use this word love in a very loose way. Like, I love like so sushi, quickly. I love my brother. I love sleep. I love naps. All the people who like taking naps are really napping right now. But I think that's one thing is passion is a very narrow road for each individual. It's such a narrow vision of something that we're seeing, and it can be very frustrating when we pin all of our hopes on one single road that we believe that we should walk, and not what God is pulling us through. Okay. And we think, I'm going to go to this school, I'm going to have this relationship, I'm going to have this many kids, I'm going to serve in this way at the church, nothing's going to go wrong, and nothing bad is going to happen in my family. And we build up this vision for ourselves, and God says, that's really nice, but you're looking at the mountaintop and not the road that I'm going to pull you through.
Yeah.
What you're asking me through is full of snakes.
Yeah.
It's full of briars and thorns. It's
Yeah.
full of fire. But I'm going to walk you through it, but you got to have faith I'm walking you through it.
Yeah.
And so, just relating this back to seasons of dispassion, oftentimes when we find something that, like, oh, this is my thing, and then someone comes along and you don't agree with them, they rub you the wrong way, or things change, and you're like, I don't really like this. There's part of our sin nature say, well, it's not what I want, so I don't want to pour into it anymore.
Yeah.
But this is the difference between love and passion. Love is, read the rest of Corinthians 13.
Yeah, please do.
Love is patient,
and
love is kind, does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. I'm going to stop there because I think with that idea of love, even that last part, it says persevere. My version I really liked, the word that it uses is called long-suffering.
Yep.
And I think so...
That's not a nice word there.
It's not
I don't know
a
why I
nice
say
word.
yes.
And like, many of us, when we first come to the faith, when we come to the faith, we're like, oh, we don't have to suffer anymore.
Yeah, like, oh man, I'm saved. Like, I don't have to go through any more hardship.
But yeah, this is my VIP ticket. I don't have to wait in line anymore.
Oh man,
I don't have to stand out with these people. No.
For you guys who might have a mindset like that, the only thing I'll say is do a little bit of research and see how the disciples of Jesus ended up after they believed in who Jesus was. And that's a taste in the life, in the type of life that we're called to go through as Christians.
Yeah.
You know? But keep going.
But yeah, in terms of love, love is what sustains us through seasons of when we say, this is not what I want.
Yeah.
But love is, okay, God, what do you want me to do in this place? How are you wanting me to grow? How am I supposed to care about others?
Yeah.
Who are you putting forward in my life that you're challenging me to grow through? I think oftentimes we just want God to put us in the right place.
Yeah.
Right?
Give us the right job.
Give us the right job.
Show us the right person to date. You know?
Yeah, the right community, the right work group, the right team, or the right church that says all the things that we want to say, or even people when we're, especially even like when we're working with youth. Akoo and I are, high school, leaders for a youth group. And some weeks, like, I'll be honest, it's so frustrating when I, in my head, think, hey, these kids don't listen.
Yeah.
They don't listen. It doesn't even feel like they want to be here. They're wasting my time. And I think that's a really big thing to talk about is the idea of my time.
Yeah.
Is this really my time?
Yeah. Is it really my time, man? Oh, that's a whole topic in itself.
Yes.
And
we'll get to that, but like I think that's one thing that even I'm being challenged on as I'm talking about it is, am I loving those around me well? Yeah. Even if coworkers say things that I'm like, that was not the nicest thing. Yeah. Yeah. How do we still suffer well? And the best I can do, I'll be honest with you guys, is just walk away. Yeah. Because I'm not mature enough in my spirit to be kind.
Yeah. So, I guess a follow-up question I would say to that, right, is I'm a person that is currently struggling with the sense of dispassion. And for me, I've been serving at church. I've been going to church every single week. I have my youth group that I go to. But I just feel like, man, I'm not passionate about like what God is calling me to do in life in the moment. I'm done with school. the job that I want to do like is not something that, you know, I'm in love with. Like, I'm not in love with my job.
Yeah.
And the job that I do want, I can't have.
Mm-hmm.
I may be struggling in my relationship. Like, I'm just unhappy, and I'm unpassionate about like different things, church, friends. Like, I don't even want to go out and reach out to my friends so that we could go like hang out and play ball or whatever.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody like me that is struggling through all these different things and is in this season of dispassion?
Yeah, I think there's going to be no clear answer for what I think you should do, because it varies on an individual level and where God is going to pull you through. I think, one, there is space for you to suffer long, right? To be long-suffering and to learn something there. But that by no means is a thing where you should just put your head down and just take all the hits. That's not what God wants you to do. Yes, you're taking the hits, but your eyes are still forward.
Yeah.
Your eyes are still forward and searching.
Okay.
And looking for a better spot. And, you know, that's okay to, if you know that's something you're dispassionate about, whoever, or you're just like, this is killing me on the inside. Yeah. That's okay to have that feeling of, this is killing me on the inside.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's something to know. Because as an individual, you might not adhere to that style of work, where maybe you need to be around more people, where you need to be changing people on a personal level, not on some sort of corporate level.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that might be the difference. But that's also, you know, part of you learning, you know, to be like, hey, I'm trying to figure out what is good for me, what works for me, where I feel like my talents are best spent. And it's good to search. But I think on the flip side of, while you're in that space, be wary of, just because you're just passionate about something, learn things of value in that space.
Okay. What
is valuable in that space? And I think that is really important, because I found so often that there are things that I think are so unrelated to what I care about, tend to work their way in such beautiful ways.
Okay.
That I never thought would. And a good example of that is, I used to be in an improv troupe in college, and I was very introverted in high school, and so it was very weird for me to even think I would ever go into theater. But doing this improv troupe, getting to perform in front of crowds, it gave me the confidence to speak in front of large groups of people, but also be in scenarios and play games I was very uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
And be willing to walk into that. And to talk with everybody and play a character. And I was like, okay, that's cool. It's a game that I think I'll just remember from my college days, but it has worked its way into people skills. Talking to people. Within my job, I'm a dental assistant now, and so my coworkers make fun of me, like, Stephen, you just talk to people, like, you're not actually doing work. But I mean, that's part of our job, is to make people feel comfortable and talk to them. And so, in one hand, for you, Akoo, I think, because I've known you, one, I think you should search for other things around you that are available, and take those opportunities. But don't cast aside the time you spent at this particular workplace.
Gotcha.
This is not a waste.
Yeah.
God put you here for a certain reason. And just because you're dispassionate now doesn't mean like it was a mistake. That just means God has you there for that season. Maybe it's time to move on.
Yeah. Oh man, I like that. That was a lot. That was a lot of nuggets. I hope you guys got all of that. If even some of that was good. And for clarity, for you guys that are listening, man, like that's actually something that I'm going through right now, feeling dispassionate about my work, the job position that I am in right now, and to be honest, the job positions that I've been in the past 2-3 years, I've just felt like, God, you know, this is not the field that I like. This is not something that I'm good at. This is not something that I'm passionate about. God, this is not what you have called me to do. these are mindsets that I've been telling myself and allowing myself to live through that has created this whole season of me being dispassionate, me being unhappy, me feeling like, God, I know there's more. Like, when am I going to get out of this valley that I'm going through? And one of the biggest things that I've heard from hearing you, Stephen, is it's okay with not being okay. I'm going to say it again. Like, it's okay not being okay.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop there. It's recognizing that, man, it's okay that I'm going through this season. It's okay that I'm going through these agonies, these moments and these transitions where I feel like it's not going my way. But trying to find, even if it's one thing that I can cling on to, that kind of gives me clarity that God is still in control.
Yeah.
So finding different ways or different things that God is trying to speak to you through this season or this valley that I might be feeling that I'm going through, to know that, like you said, it's for a reason. It's for a reason that I am at the job that I'm at right now. It's for a reason that I am going through this long suffering, quote unquote, that I'm going through, right? And it's actually kind of funny because it's part of my testimony, because what brought me right now, we're recording this podcast in Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah.
And for me, I was not born and raised in Kansas City. I actually just moved to Kansas City in October of this past year, 2021. And the reason why I moved to Kansas City was because I got a job at the position I'm at right now. And I was telling myself, God, like, you're taking me out of the country, cross country. I was in New York City at the time. And I'm going to this completely new city in a completely different state, and you're taking me there to do something that I don't even like. I didn't go to school for healthcare. Like, I don't even know the field, let alone do I know any single any single body in Kansas City. But God, I'm just gonna trust you. I'm gonna trust that you are in control and you have a thought process, a reason to why you're taking me through this season. Because that's always true. God will always have a reason for taking you through a specific season that you're going through, whether that's a great season or whether that's a not so good season, right? And for me, I remember talking to my wife. She was my fiance at the time, and I was telling her, like, babe, like, if there's anything that I want to get from this season that God is taking me through, is I just want to be connected to community, and I want to find a space in which I can glorify you, God. Yeah. And within the first exit to get into the apartment that I'm at right now, Life Church was there. Yeah. The church in which I met Steve, and the church in which I got to basically start this group that we've been starting with our young adults and with our youth. And man, like, I'm finding that God brought me here not to go through a season of turmoil because he wanted to spite me for whatever reason. No, he brought me here for an opportunity, for an appointment that he needed me to meet through a job that I didn't feel passionate about. Yeah. So it's kind of like bringing it full circle, in which, like you were saying, like saying that it's okay not being okay with the season that you're going through, but not stopping there, finding ways, tangible ways in which you can still glorify God and put him in control of taking you through that season that you're going through. Yeah. And that's a mouthful, but for me, I realized that taking a couple steps back and having a full 360-degree view perspective of the season that you're in, rather than looking at it through the lens of the, like, if you wear glasses, the kind of 2D perspective, taking 2 steps back and realizing, okay, God, what are you trying to show me? What are you trying to tell me? Are you trying to grow me? What is it? So one thing that I would challenge you guys that are listening is have that conversation with yourself. Have that conversation with God and ask him to show you tangible ways in why he's taking you through this season that you're going through, and recognize that, man, he is still in control. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
For me, lastly, before I let you land the plane, Stephen, is going back to that posture of love.
Yeah.
Having a posture of love and going through this season that you're not happy, this season of dispassion, this season where you feel like nothing is going your way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. I think, man, I'll round it or end it off on this. Like, it was just so funny when you're talking about, like, there's a divine appointment. And it's so funny because oftentimes God's divine appointments, we see this biblically. His divine appointments don't look sexy.
No, they don't.
Like, look at Isaiah, man. This guy was supposed to be prophesying to God's chosen people, and he was persecuted for most of his life.
Yeah.
Look at, like, Joshua,
the
2 spies, and, like, who marches around a city to bring it down.
Yeah.
These are not sexy appointments, and so I think the idea of love, of being sacrificed, but just sacrifice.
Mm.
This idea of sacrifice on what it looks like to give yourself up and go with where God wants you to. And I think this is what I'll say is it's not just sacrificing all of your desires. It is not sacrificing all your desires. It's how you get to those desires.
Yeah. Because, like sacrificing your comfort.
Yes, sacrificing your comfort. Because God does listen and he does know your heart.
Yeah.
Like, I do believe, now there are cases where, like, he's like, you're never getting married. And I know that's a hard thing, very hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But oftentimes, and this is a generalization, but oftentimes we say we want to get married, but when we say that, we say, I want to get married at 20. I want to get married at 25.
Yeah.
We put a number
our
on
own timeline.
Our own timeline. And oftentimes God will say, yes, I know you want to get married. Yeah. Yes, I know you want a job. Yes, I know you want to go into ministry. But I want you to go here. I want you to be in this spot where you're uncomfortable because you're going to learn something that you're going to know that's going to help you in your marriage. That's going to help you in your ministry. Yeah. That's going to help you in your community. And like, and people will say, like, I want to be my wife at church. Great. This building that you think is the best. Yeah. You're gonna meet him there. Where you're limiting yourself, and so I would just say to anyone listening, for ourselves, like, be open to where God is pulling you, because He will pull you in some incredible places that you thought you would never be stretched, and you'll be shocked at how much God is able to do through you, despite what you think in your own head and what you know in your own head are your shortcomings. Yeah.
Man, I think some of these people are like, is God pulling me to Kansas City?
Maybe pushing away. I don't
know. Nah, that is not what we're trying to say. But that's so good, man. Yeah. That's so good. And wow, I think that was a good 45 minutes, hour of just realizing and recognizing that, man, it's okay sometimes to not being okay. It's okay feeling dispassionate, but wanting to, find things that you're passionate about, and like asking God to take you through things that you want to go through. But hey, let's also give God a chance. Yeah. Let's give God a chance to do His job. And His job is going to be God. Yeah. And let's do our jobs as believers. And our job is to glorify Him. That's right. Even in seasons and moments where we feel like we don't like it. We're uncomfortable. I think that's where God speaks to us the most. And that's where He grows us the most, in moments where we feel uncomfortable. So with that, man, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this next season that we're hopping into in regards to the podcast and everything. We're going to try to kind of filter in specific topics in which we're going to go through and stuff like that for next episodes and stuff like that. So stay tuned. Stay tuned.
And we'll figure out a way, although these are conversations that Akoo and I have just thought up of, topics that we're passionate about. If you're listening and you're like, hey, I'd really like you to speak on this topic. Yeah. If we believe that we can give some sort of insight or even speak on it, we won't tell you, like, if it's some question, if we don't know the answer. We might talk about it, but we might not be able to give you an answer. But we would love to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about.
Exactly.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah,
we want to talk about these conversations.
Yeah, on that note, it's a wrap.
Yes, sir.
We'll catch you later.